Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa and spa life, the SPA, is seek power always. That power within you that gives you all the energy you need to do your bigger work in the world. Now, I am so thrilled to have my friend and an amazing woman on a mission here, Vicki Fitch, who is an international author, speaker, and business consultant. And she is on a mission to rid the world of NES. That is not enough syndrome. So we're going to be really diving into what that is and how that will affect you. And Vicki, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for inviting me. I feel so blessed to be here and just have so excited to have connected with you.
Oh, well, you know, you and I had that tea just weeks ago where we got to meet in person, and it was just so great because I got to be introduced to your project, which we'll be sharing here about the 12 books in one each month, that whole 12 books, 12-month campaign that you have going on, and just your mission in how we see ourselves and how we are being in the world. And I want to just jump into that because you are a mover and shaker woman. You are doing a lot of amazing things. You are on lots of platforms. You're getting out in the world. Let's just go ahead and jump into the You Are Enough global initiative that you are doing. How did you start with that? How did you get there?
Gosh, it's like through my live streaming. I started live streaming when it became available. And I noticed that I was talking and I'm sharing to people, and there's just this thing going across all continents and all countries and states, and people just feel like they weren't enough. They were afraid. They were having these fears of who they were. And so I started talking to them about it and saying, you have this bully in your head and we need to evict them, and started just fleshing it out. And I said, I have to write a book called Evict the Bully in Your Head because I see this is going across so many people. But even as a child, I was really sensitive to other people. And I was always the defender of the weak, right? The person, I am 6 foot tall. So I was really tall back then too, but I always felt like I had to defend people. But it took me on this lifelong journey of recognizing why people are mean to other people and why the people that are being mean to accept it. And, it was that dynamic of what people were feeling. And then I started calling it not enough syndrome. It's like you feel like you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, not pretty enough, not tall, not whatever enough.
Right.
And that I needed to offer something to help people recognize that and recognize their internal value.
Right. And I love that you are reminding people of this, from, pre-teens all the way to grandparents, that it affects, everyone, right? Of having this experience if you've not had the awareness around this. And I love how you really ground in the fact of looking at, the desire of growth, right? Of what you want to do in your life versus, trying to measure up against what somebody else wants for you, that expectation. And, a lot of times that can be from like your parents or peers or so many different things in life that can come up that why are we doing the things that we're doing? What are the motivations and what are the things that kind of take us out of the game? So I love that you're just putting it all out there. And when you were telling me about your series and, your big, hairy goal, I mean, we might as well throw that out here right now. Tell us about this big movement you have around your books.
Oh my gosh, the BHAG, right? The big, hairy, audacious goal of publishing 12 books in 12 months. And, it's because, again, I started live streaming and I'm talking to people and all of this content comes out, and I'm thinking, I have to write a book on that. And then recognizing people were really struggling with financial difficulties and going through this thing where I would say, but you're broke. You're not broken. Like you're not internally broken. And so we had to start recognizing that. And anyway, all these things, and I just go, I have to write a book on that. I have to write a book on that. And then I realized if I don't start writing these books, like even if I start right now, it's 12 years or longer before they all come out. And who's going to want to wait 12 years for that book? And the only thing I could think of was like, okay, well, I'll just go, I'll do something nobody's ever done before. And I will publish a book a month. And it's harder than I thought, but it's not harder because of doing it. It's harder because I thought they were only going to be 30 or 40,000 words, and they're 80, 90, and 100,000 word books. So it's taking a lot longer. And then you've got editing. But that's where it started from, is the desire to get this content out so I could help more people at once.
Right. Well, and I just want to present this, because for some of you who are thinking that these are just like little pamphlets or something here,
Right.
I mean, this is the first one in the series, the direct selling. Look at the thickness of this. And for those of you who are not, maybe not watching this, but you're listening on other platforms, this is like an inch, right? This is like a real book that's happening here. And you actually may be looking at the title where it talks about Direct Sales 101. That is just the deceptive cover on the front there for people in the industry. You really need to look at what are the things, no matter if you're in that industry or not. This is a life book. It's a resource to be, what are the things that we are stopping ourselves from? And I love, Vicki, that you're putting yourself on the forefront in a huge goal like this, to have that kind of deadline for yourself on the 12th of every month to have one of these books be delivered. I'm sure there's some, fear, and you're going to talk about your headspace heroes, and you have a whole nother vocabulary in the world that you have out there that's amazing, that we'll talk about as well. But I think it's amazing that the modeling that you do, right? That you are putting yourself out and having these huge goals for yourself. I mean, and not from a place that you feel like you have to prove yourself. You've proven yourself, girl, over years in the industry and just been there, but that you are being relevant, and that you are doing things, that you are creating this for the purpose for people to really realize their own personal value. And that was one of the big things I took away in being with you, is one, how present you are with people, how deeply you care, and how important it is for us to realize where are the parts in our life that we are sabotaging ourselves, where we may not even realize it.
Yeah. You know what? All of those it's actually so relevant. And when you said about being present, I love people. I really do. And there's nothing that's more disheartening to someone who really cares about people than for someone to ask a question and then the person just moves on. You're not relevant. And so I don't try to be present. I am present because I'm so interested in other people. And of course, my heart is to serve. I want to serve people. And I want to help them to, again, become the best version of themselves, not the version that other people think they should be, not what everybody's expectations are, but just who do you want to be? Who do you want to embrace? And so I don't know if I answered your question. I felt important that I think in this digital age of technology where people text when they're next to each other, that we need to talk about that the connection, the true intimate friendship and connections that are bonded by people actually looking in each other's eyes gets so diluted by what other people, by the way people do things.
Right. Well, and Vicki, do you think that some of the delusion and of people not having these deeper conversations come from that whole, self-value and the headspace that people are coming from, and, maybe fear of being judged? I mean, as far as having those deeper conversations, we can kind of just stop ourselves at times with this.
Well, I think that happens a lot when you meet people at the first time, at an event or whatever. There is a lot of fear. And as you know, fear is a character, and you guys will have to read the book to find out about fear. But, he's a bully. And, the big three are fear, doubt, and shame. And those three control so much of what we do that, we fall victim to some of these crazy things that are happening. And it breaks my heart. So I think that yes, people get afraid to start a conversation or actually dive a little bit deeper. They're afraid someone's going to feel like they are, not, I don't know, not good enough, not right, not something enough. And so
right.
they start that fear, and instead just kind of backpedal or don't communicate. And sometimes they want to tell you something about themselves, but I call, the intimacy bubbles. They want to let you into a space that they're not sure, that you should be in. And some people bring you into spaces that you definitely shouldn't be in, and then they get their selves hurt. And we call that doing the bubble bump, right? That we got to bump people right back out.
Well, and it's creating those boundaries, right? About, what you're sharing and what you're not sharing, and getting really congruent with yourself, and really looking at that. And I know that you've got some great tools around that, about how you like to have impact, and share with them about the Headspace Heroes.
Okay. Well, the Headspace Heroes are it starts out with Captain Confidence and Corporal Courage, right? And they're they're in charge of the rest of the heroes, because confidence, honestly, in my opinion, is one of the most valuable heroes, but we cannot confuse him with his twin brother cockiness, right? Because cockiness is, they are identical twins, but you can tell by the way they act what's different. Confidence is very sexy. Confidence is what attracts people to real leadership. Cockiness is what gets them, confused. But people will follow a confident leader. And the other headspace heroes, one of my favorites is empathy, because I think that we use empathy so little that we become offended and frustrated, and we allow those bullies to take over instead of ones like kindness and compassion and empathy. Right. I mean, empathy, I really believe, is one of the least utilized these days to what I call peek behind the curtain. It's like, why? People don't wake up in the morning going, oh, who can I hurt today? Unless they're really hurt. I mean, right? I mean, unless they are really hurting.
Right. Definitely. Well, and I was just thinking, it reminded me with Brene Brown, about her talking about the whole vulnerability and how empathy comes into that conversation. And, vulnerability is on the table about, how is it that we're being there in the world? And, that is something that I have been working through myself, especially from law enforcement. It was, don't show that vulnerability and show up as that strong person and what that looked like. And, I've been sharing more and more about, when I was doing that job, I was a single mom. I had 2 young daughters at home and worrying about the mortgage payment. And there was a lot of other things happening in my own headspace of trying to, be the person that people call in a time of danger. Yeah. And then, you and I also had the conversation, and it really opened up this, what you're doing with these books are so important, because some of the things, the conversations I've not even had with myself in many years that I'm really in that vulnerable space, talking about, is when I was in a disempowering relationship, when I was in the police department, and I had all my own shame and guilt around should know better. I'm the one responding to these calls, and why is it that I'm in this place? And one of the most profound stories, if for our listeners, if you don't read this book for any other reason, the whole Evict the Bully, is to read Lisa's love story. Mm-hmm. Girl, that is just a powerful story that really breaks down the how and why of where strong people can get to a place of being disempowered and start, I'm speaking a lot now about self-doubt and being just derailed, and what are those things that happen? Because in our logical mind, we start thinking about, how can this happen? Why did this happen? And all of this. But when you break it down in your story, one, is that based on a true story? And 2, is how is it that you came to that conclusion to write about this and the impact that you hope it to have, because that is a profound story.
Oh, thank you. Well, it is loaded. Lisa's love story is totally loaded. It is not based on any truth at all. I mean, I have never had that happen to me. Again, there is no shame in someone who has had it happen, but I call that the nudge. And the nudge is how we all go astray. It's like, and we won't tell about what happened exactly in the story, but let's face it, in an abusive relationship, if a guy walks up to you, punches you in the face and says, come with me, woman, it's not going to happen. But yet when they shower us with things and they feed those insecurities, right? It's like the bullies in our head get fed by these, these people that want to control our lives and do these things. And so we allow that. But when we engage the headspace heroes, like honesty and integrity, and, then we'll be less vulnerable to those things happening. And when we have confidence and courage, then we say, oh, wait a minute, let's see, if I weigh this out against the headspace heroes, they're going to say, you don't get to treat me like that. You don't get to start, making snide comments, start out nice, and then we have to nip that in the bud right away, but we don't, because people say, oh, you're being so sensitive. Like they start to press us, like, and then we start questioning ourselves, like, gosh, maybe I am, maybe, and don't take offense to this gentleman or your ladies, but, oh, is it that time of the month? Like they try and throw you this thing, like all of a sudden we've lost all, ability to recognize unacceptable behavior because we have some cramps or we're feeling bad, and it's insulting. And yet, we have to recognize too, and this is where empathy comes in. that those first questions, maybe that's because somebody never taught them to be respectful and adjusting. We can nudge them back on course, but it's not our responsibility. We need to take care of ourselves and make sure that we are, like I said, we're making sure the headspace heroes are in charge.
Right. Well, and I think what's so important about the nudge is it is subtle. Like that first one, you may actually not even recognize it. And then it starts building, and then you start kind of second guessing and the different things that come up with it. And I feel like, I love that the people we surround ourselves with, those become the bigger voices in our head when we choose, the positive people in our life and start listening to them and, building up the confidence and courage in ourselves. So what's our lifelines around these things when they come up? And I feel like there's like a little part of you that resides in my head now because I love this.
Yay!
So good, because I was actually on the phone with a client yesterday and she asked for an emergency call, and she was all in this panic, and she's this powerful leader on a big mission. And she was just totally taken out because, there were, two different, people in her life that were taking away her power and having her second guess herself and having her feel really vulnerable and all these things that were coming up. And, it was such a beautiful opportunity to have this conversation with her about, don't let anyone, put, a pin in your bubble and to really take you off track, because you are here for this huge thing. And whether or not, people, whether it's, God or intuition or the universe or whoever it is that grounds you, when you're on a bigger mission, God didn't put you here to be sidetracked or go on that road of the nudge when you were here for something bigger. And it was so, great to be in this conversation with her, where by the end of the conversation, she's like, you're right. I don't have time for that. I can't be sucked into that. I can't be listening to that, what other people are saying with that. I'm here to make such a huge impact. And it was just so much more empowering for her to really step forward into that. And, we all have it, right? It doesn't matter how successful you are or what's happening at any day or any time. Those old voices can come up, and what are you doing to, combat that? And I know that you've created this whole series as ways for people to do that. What do you do now when you've got, something that pops up in you? What's your reaction?
Well, as you know from the 12 steps, right? The step one is not today, bully, not today. We have to cop that tune and just go, you know what? No, because the bully fear is always going to pop up. No matter how confident you are, something comes up, and you could be confident about 100 things, and then something slips. And, we talk about the intimacy bubbles, right? And when we've let someone who's either having a bad day, we're going to give them credit really quick, or they just don't deserve to be there in our intimacy bubbles, we're so vulnerable that they can hurt us desperately, right? And that's why we have to be so confident in who we are that we trust ourselves enough to even supersede what they think. And that doesn't mean that you don't evaluate information that people share, but it's not information when people are trying to drag you down. You're never going to do that, or that's not going to work, or what. It's like, I don't want to hear it, right? And if you read the first book, that I bought my first house when I was 19, and everybody can say, don't do it. It's too much, it's too much responsibility. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe they're right. And I just started feeling so stressed out. And then when I got in my logic brain, I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I have money. I've got a realtor. I've got somebody selling me their house. I got the bank. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and give it a try, right? And then 6 months later, when I decided to quit my job and start my own business, they were like, all over again. What? Are you crazy? And it was like, that's when I started that's where the first hand came up. I was like, you know what? Don't tell me I can't do it till I've already done it. Then feel free to let me know. Because I'm tired of other people's stress and fears and infiltrating me. So I had to create that barrier and just go, you know what? I got this. What's the worst that could happen? I'm not going to die. I could be humiliated, but that's, again, another bully. Humiliation is it's just the way we react to situations that are uncomfortable.
Definitely. Well, two things just came up for me here where, it's other people. How many times when we're feeling stress, overwhelm, or we're really second guessing ourselves, if you just stop for a moment, is that actually our own voice, right? Is that, the voice of somebody else that is fearful on our behalf, or, maybe that, and of course, a lot of times they are good meaning, they can be or not, right?
Yeah.
So to really have that, evaluation for ourselves of what that is. I mean, we can create our own fear on our own, and then you throw somebody else's fear on top of it. That's like almost like a double whammy that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, for some of our listeners who might be out there multitasking, or they're maybe listening and not watching, they may not have actually caught this, but just using very simple words. And sometimes simple is so simple that we don't use it and we can forget. But I love that you actually, quote, say this, not today, bully. Like just saying those words, and it's so cute. If you guys aren't watching this, she does a whole little hand thing and a whole little shake thing. And because there's something about when we move our body, it integrates these things within ourselves. It's not just the words, it's really a full embodiment of that's not happening. And so it's so important to have these kind of anchors and things that really solidify who we are being, and to come from that place of that. So, is this kind of years of cultivating with your clients and life experience, and how is it that you kind of put that together, that you were able to really come up with words like that?
I have to say, I'm not sure exactly. Like some things have completely come while I'm writing, not today, bully, but while I'm just all of a sudden, like I literally have a different plan on where a book's going to go. And then I'm like, oh, that's good. Like I'm literally typing. So I don't know. I'm sure it's a culmination of books I've read, because I literally read every day and I listen to books on tape. So, it's a culmination of those things, but also a culmination of self-growth, from the book that I got married young, and my husband was an alcoholic drug addict. He charged up all my credit cards, drained my bank account. He left me, it was like, I had to start doing some self-reflection, because I felt lower than low. I felt like I felt like my life was over, and I never felt suicidal, but I had no idea how to figure out, get back to where I was. And it just took this path of, girl, pull up your bootstraps, and that's why I call pull up your bootstraps in the book. And, we were talking about the Fitchism dictionary. There's 15 pages of Fitchism in the back of the book, to try and give fun, contextual information to people so they can, recognize that there is a fun way to talk about tricky subjects, difficult subjects. And like I said, pull up your bootstraps means, hey, I'm about to say something you might not like.
I love this, because it takes kind of that old, historical, if you will, storytelling, right? And so you put it into a story in a way that we can hear it. And what's so great about the dictionary is that it does put words to things that we've maybe just not been able to really identify. I mean, kind of a feeling, or we've not wanted to identify, right? Because it could be some of those, how did I get here, right? It seems like that's kind of been the theme through some of these books here, is like, how did I get here? And I think that that's part of the facade aspect that people are having in their life, where it's like, we want to have everything look great and everything's going great. And if things aren't, it can feel like it can usurp our, people respecting us or really choosing us. But I think there's really a theme out here of being vulnerable and being out there. And when you actually speak it out into the world, there's something about dissipating it, right? About not giving it the power.
Right. I call it that exposing light to the darkness. I mean, because it's like bullies on, like trolls online, that I live stream every day, as you know, and trolls will come, and people are afraid to get on and tell their story because they're afraid they're going to get bullied. But when you prepare them, and they can say things that are disarming, like not to insult the other people. Sometimes I use a bit of sarcasm to get them under control, but never try and hurt them, and always telling them, hey, we'll forget you said all that. Well, you can start over at any moment. You're allowed to. And we have what I call troll conversions. I have followers now that started out as trolls, being rude, disrespectful, and unkind. And the conversation, it's the confidence in the conversation, because I don't care. I mean, I don't even know you. You're not getting in my bubble. So, you can holler whatever you want from out there. You can tell me ugly. You can do whatever. And I have these, for those of you who aren't watching, I have a couple moles. Like I have a mole on my cheek. I have one on my forehead. My mom always used to love them. She said it was like, a model. I could do, these things, whatever. And when people make fun of them, I go, I know, Cindy Crawford is like so jealous, And so they don't know how to react to that because I'm not crying and I'm not upset. I own who I am. It's like, okay, that's me. You don't have to like the fact that I'm a redhead. You don't have to like the fact that I'm 6 foot tall.
Right.
You don't have to like my voice. And I always say, you can hit the magic X and poof, I disappear. It's like, you're a magician. You have the power.
Yeah.
And so when we turn that around, and the same things with those things like Lisa's love story, when we turn it around where we have a story and people go, yeah, I'm not a moron, an idiot, pathetic, a piece of crap, because those are the things that I've heard people say because I allowed this to happen. It's like, ooh, that I was nudged and I got to get back on course. And all of a sudden, it doesn't have to have a negative meaning that there's something wrong with me. It's I'm bright. I'm recognizing there was a nudge and I need to get back on course. There's no humiliation or shame in that. It's just information.
Right.
And that is what I want to bring to people. That information and the recognition that you are enough just the way you are. You know, you wanting to change for you to grow, awesome. But don't change for me or anyone else.
Right. Definitely. Well, and I love that, how you can really, change those things around. Like when people say things, it's like their reflections, and to how you shift it and change it for yourself. I was just thinking with my 2 daughters, my youngest daughter has brown eyes and my oldest has green eyes. And I remember my youngest daughter was questioning whether or not, like I got brown eyes kind of thing, because she was comparing herself. And I said, oh, baby, I said, I made you chocolate chip eyes.
I love it. I love it.
And, it's just these things because, we can go down these holes of just like thinking certain things about ourselves, where it's like the one thing that's so beautiful about ourselves that we just don't even see ourselves because we're in it.
Yep.
And it's just amazing the things that can come up in that headspace around us and what that looks like.
Absolutely.
So it's wild. And, it's funny, one of my granddaughter, actually, Rosalind, had told me that she said she was looking at one of my YouTube things, and she just said, she's like, Gima, I don't see that you have any haters on your thing. And I'm like,
you ain't got no haters.
I go,
haven't arrived, Grammy.
and that's exactly what she said. She's like, you haven't made it till you have haters. She said, because you're not controversial enough, or you're not, people, you don't have enough people looking and all this. And I'm just like, oh my God, how great that she has that perspective. Right. And I'm like, okay.
When we celebrate the trolls, like, come on, I call it Troll Patrol. Come on, trolls, let's go. Oh, and when one comes on, I'm like, I'm in the middle of a thought, but you hang out and we'll do some Troll Patrol. I'll just go on.
I love that you bring that into the forefront. And, it's what we create in our space that is so important, to really look at. In fact, one of the things I love asking my guests, because, how you are in, your office or your bedroom or kitchen, it all is different, the environments that we create.
Absolutely.
So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, well, I do love my bedroom, although I have to say right now I feel like it's a staging ground for books. So it doesn't, because I have all the files, because I do content. I try and do just one book, but if something comes, that I have to get in one of them, I'll do that. So I feel like it's a staging ground, but I do love it. But I love my office, although you guys are only seeing pieces of it. I have a custom built office because I'm very organized and detailed, and all my scrapbooks are all color coordinated and organized. And that is one of those things that's grounding for me. I love organization and structure and systems and procedures. And so I love my bedroom, but like I said, right now, in a couple more months when I'm finished with all of it, it'll be back to my safe haven. Right now, it's a workspace. So
nice. It's in that space.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the You Are Enough campaign, like a little bit about what that's about and how people can be part of that, and what's that look like?
Absolutely. The You Are Enough campaign is something that I do it in schools all the way through Fortune 500 companies, but the whole, positioning behind it is recognizing if we can start when children are small, even in preschool, telling them that they are enough just the way they are, giving them hope, encouragement, and belief in themselves, then we will have many less bully births, which, a bully birth is because I think it's important for your listeners to understand, a bully birth happens because we are told when we're little, let's say we trip a lot and people say, you're clumsy, but you don't know what it means. You're like, yeah, that, like, you just kind of keep rolling along until that day when you recognize that the clumsy that they're talking about isn't positive. And then you're like, oh, now the bully is born. Oh, I'm clumsy. I'm always going to be clumsy. Oh, I can't do sports because I'm clumsy. I can't do this because I'm clumsy. And all of a sudden there's this bully birth. Now, kids can be active and not paying attention. We got to stop labeling those with things and finding out if they're okay. And of course, identifying with the doctor if there is some kind of balance issue. But the point is, we need to feed them so they recognize their own value, because the kids that are picking on other kids are having difficulty recognizing their own value. People that are happy and confident do not go around picking on other people. They just don't. I mean, can you imagine Diane walking down the street and saying something rude or sarcastic to someone, like just to hurt them? It's like, oh, I mean, and I would look at that. You look at those people, and if you look at them with empathy, you go, oh, I'm sorry. I wonder what, and I'll look at them. If they say something to me, I'll go, I'm sorry, are you having a bad day? And but out of genuine curiosity, because again, it's not normal to just be mean to people. And usually you'll find that people will, all of a sudden their face goes, oh, I'm sorry. Like my mom just got diagnosed with cancer, or my dog died. Like, I mean, you'll be surprised what people are going through, and they're not going to just tell you. So if we look at them with empathy, it's different. So if we can teach kids starting from, very young age to look at things this way and to ask those questions and to internalize their value, make sure they do some bubble bumps and keep people out of the wrong intimacy bubbles, and recognize that, hey, there's other people got issues, but I can keep the headspace heroes engaged and leave the bullies at bay. They do not need to be here. So we could literally change the world. I mean, you think about all the bosses that are unkind to employees, that they've got, these syndromes where they have to act like they're all that in a bag of chips. It's like, it's disheartening, but there's something going on in their life that they don't think they're enough. And that's why they have to push they are enough on you to make you to prove to themselves, because they're not proving to the person that they're criticizing. Yeah. So that's why the You Are Enough campaign, I know that was a long way around it, but it's you are enough just the way you are, and trying to help people of all ages to recognize your internal value, look at other people with empathy, engage the headspace heroes, and evict the bullies.
No, I love that. I'm glad that you elaborated on that. I'm a big fan of it. I'm totally behind that. I'm embracing it in myself and looking at, what are those things where I feel I'm not enough, right? Anytime that, I know that I'm here for a bigger mission and reaching people and all of that. And if I notice things that are draining my energy, if they're having self-doubt, I'm asking myself these questions now, like, where is that coming from? And what is that related to? And, am I going to really let that take me off path, right? And so, because the nudge is so subtle, like those things can happen. And just having the awareness alone, that's something I really want our listeners to hear is, it can happen, it can sneak up on you, and to have the awareness and have tools, like Vicki's books and things that you can really go to where you are reading those positive things, you are transferring those, negative thoughts into positive thoughts and really moving along those things that really, really support you. And actually, one of my favorite quotes that you have in your book, where it talks about the healing begins when the hearing begins.
Right.
And that was really just a beautiful thing, right? Because what does it take, right? To listen deeper, that empathy you were talking about, that getting to a place of like, people just don't do things just because, right? There's some motivation, whether they know it or not, and it's probably subconscious. They had something happen to them. There was something that happened in their world or whatever. And when you look at it from that perspective, almost, part of it, I think I would look at, think of if they were a child, right? Because really it's just that child within them, even though no matter what size, age or whatever they are in their body, they're reacting like a hurt child. Right?
Absolutely. The bullies are, and then if you read about the hot spots and the landmines, it's like they are triggered by these things. And, a hot spot, for those of you guys who are listening, is, an area that's very sensitive for you. And the hot spots are recognizable. Like, whatever is going on. But a landmine is something that you have no idea that it would be considered, rude, like to say, oh my gosh, you're so smart. And I talk about that, smart girls stay single in the book. And when that's a landmine, because we would never anticipate what most people consider a compliment, that it's actually an insult to that person. So that's why we don't judge on what they're, judgment is a bully, right? We're allowed to discern. There's a big difference between discerning and judgment. Judgment is based on, this is what you're doing wrong and you should do this better. And discernment is like, oh, they're hurting. There's something going on. There's something behind that curtain that is troubling them. And I want to help be part of the solution and, not part of the problem.
Right. Right. Oh, I love this. I love this conversation.
Me too.
I love what you're doing in the world. And I know that people are going to want to stay connected with you, and you've got some freebies. So let's share a little bit about that.
I am so excited. Well, first of all, they can say accepted. Hopefully you're accepting me. No, I'm just kidding.
We love you.
Right? Thank you. As long as you love me, Diane, I'm okay. They can stay connected with me on my website at vickifitch.com. And I was thinking, because I know I sent something through to you, and I don't remember if I promised them something specific. They can get, if you remind me while we're here, because my assistant usually puts those things together, we'll take care of it. But for any of you guys, you can go to vickifitch.com/freebies. And there are things there you can definitely take away, but remind me what I was going to give your audience.
Yeah. So we will actually put all this in the show notes so people will get this as well. But you are offering a free 30-minute group call to anyone purchasing the 12 books for 12 months series, which is a $400 value. Very, very generous. And you can go to vickifitch.com/freebies to pick up some goodies. So there's lots of ways to play and to really connect. And, it's important to have these kind of resources. We need to build our own arsenal of being good people in the world.
Yeah, right. And be leaders in that area. And that's why the 12 books, 12 months series is designed for them to become the best version of themselves. Throughout the 12 books, even though you might think, like she said, there's a deceptive cover. Direct Selling 101 is about direct sales, but it's not. It's about you recognizing why you're afraid to ask certain questions and giving you new ways to recognize things and go, oh my gosh, it's just simple. I mean, honestly, these are not some deep psychological thing. It's just like, it's common sense, just put into words that make it easy. And if you guys go to vickifitch.com/5K, you can read all about the journey. You can order the books there. You just message me and let me know that you got hit from Diane's, and I will make sure you get that consultation, because it's powerful when your organization, your company maybe they have an issue, and for us to get in there and come up with some great analogies and ways for you guys to deal with it is amazing. And I'd love to speak to the organizations as well if you guys need someone to come in and help.
Oh, that is so generous. That is so great. So good. I love it. So I just want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and just being here. This is such an important conversation to have. And I love that you're sharing it. And, just that reminder around, looking at your life, and just if you're having some of these things that are sucking you out or taking you off track, you can correct them, right? With just having that awareness. So thank you again so much, Vicki, for being here on the show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And thank you so much. Again, I've so enjoyed meeting you. I love the power and the empathy, and you're just such an easy person to connect with. I just adored our time when we got to meet, and I'm just so honored to be here.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. So listeners, thank you for, really being with us here today. The most valuable asset that we have is our time, and we do not take that lightly. So really do appreciate you being here with us. Please, if you have any comments to have, please put them in here. The most important thing is, I don't want you guys driving or doing things and saying that, that was a good thing or that was just nice. What are you going to shift and change in your life? What was that one thing that you're going to do differently in your life? Put that in the comment, tag both Vicki and myself if you've got any questions or ways that we can support you. It's so important to get these kind of messages and movements out in the world, about being not enough, about really stepping out in the world with these these movements. And so you can do and help, if that your part that you can do in this is by sharing it, by subscribing, and really looking at the awareness that you can have for yourself and make those little shifts or difference. You know, it's not just, you know, the on and off switch. We can be a little bit of the dimmer switch in between. And when we really catch those things early on, we can really make a shift and difference in that. We will also have in the show notes my gift that I have for you also, which is the Life Reset Quiz. .com, and that'll also help you at having awareness. That's really the name of the game here, of what's working and not working, because when we have that awareness, we can then do something different about that. So again, thank you listeners so much for being here. Thanks again, Vicki, and until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now.